This Luis Guilherme deal from Palmeiras to West Ham is happening. It really is. It's got the whiff of authenticity about it. I don't know what authenticity smells like, but it's a bit like this, I'm guessing. And that is that it just feels real. It feels like it's happening. It feels more authentic than the Wesley links or anyone else that you would care to mention that we've been linked with in the last little while. There's been so many reports and updates, hasn't there, from Fabrizio Romano. And we know that he knows. Everybody knows that he's like that, really, and he with Tim Steidten. We know this because, do you remember when the players were being flown over on private jet? Mohammed Kudus, picture in the private jet with Tim Steidten. Tim Steidten, arm round, I can't remember who was there. I think Tim Steidten was in the middle. Arm round Kudus, arm round the agent. Same happened with Edson Alvarez. A similar thing happened with Mavropanos as well. All of those pictures were being leaked to Fabrizio Romano. And look, there was only one person, unless the pilot was the same pilot every time, and I don't think it was. There was only one person who was on that jet every single time, and that's Steidten. But two and two together, I think we're getting four, and it's that Steidten is feeding Fabrizio Romano this information. So if Romano is saying the deal is close, and I believe it's close, then I think that's pretty much as good as a rubber stamp as we're going to get. It was quite noticeable, wasn't it? You didn't see Tim Steidten in the back of the van, my van, of course, with his arm around James Ward-Prowse on the drive up the M3 from Southampton. We didn't see that, of course. But this is the interesting thing. We knew that James Ward-Prowse was a David Moyes signing. And we've been playing this game for some time now, haven't we? Who buys the players? Who bought Benrahma? Who bought Vlasic? All of that sort of stuff. It's gone on and on and on and on and on. And you understand that there are some where it's crystal clear. You know who's bought the player. Well, we knew it was James Ward-Prowse was bought by Moyes. We knew Kalvin Phillips was wanted by Moyes. But others, there's been a little bit of a grey area, a little bit of ambiguity there. This is not going to happen anymore. This is quite clear. This is what Tim Steidten wanted. Tim Steidten, and he's been a very, very patient man, really, hasn't he? But this is what he wanted. He wanted to be able to sign the players, identify the players, and sign them and have the transfer budget. I mean, he's done it. He has absolutely done it. I don't know anything about Luis Guilherme, as I've mentioned to you you probably get it now. Over the last 3 days, I've seen some YouTube footage. I'm not going to pretend that I've watched the Brazilian. It's a Serie A, isn't it? The Brazilian one, or the Copa Libertadores. I haven't watched it. I don't know anything about these games at all. However, what I do know is that Tim Steidten has been scouting Brazil studiously for quite some time now. And what I also do know is this transfer for Guilherme, irrespective of what I know about him, would never have happened under David Moyes. I'm not saying we never would have got a player from Brazil, but he'd been over on loan. It's like that when we brought out Luis Guilherme, who sort of played a few times, didn't he, for the under-21s, but never really stood a chance of breaking into the first team, even at a point where we were decimated and didn't have any centre-backs. He was never going to get a chance. And do you know what? He probably wasn't good enough. But there would never been a point where West Ham went over to South America and got the cream of the crop, basically. I was watching the Champions League final the other day, and Vinicius Junior obviously scored a really great goal, didn't he, for them? And I've seen him play a few times, and I often wonder, how do they get these players so early? How do they get them from Brazil? And how do they identify them? And the truth of the matter is, a lot of the top clubs just buy the best Brazilian youngsters very, very early. And that appears to be what we're doing. As I say, I cannot validate that in any way, shape or form. I'm literally relying, pretty much you guys and the press telling me, this is the guy. This is what I'm being told. This is the guy. This is the top guy. This is the guy we should be signing. Looks absolutely brilliant. Okay, fair enough. But this wouldn't have happened under Moyes. It really wouldn't. And I just look at Tim Steidten. I look at how he's positioned himself and how he's been patient at West Ham. And I think it's really quite remarkable. I guess it was a game of chicken, really, with David Moyes, wasn't it? And he won. I mean, he had to... I do wonder the conversation that might have happened between him and David Sullivan when he was appointed. It may have been a case of, you're going to have to be a little bit patient here. Eventually, this is a model what we want to move across to. But it can't happen at the moment because, and I'm pretty sure this will be the case in David Moyes' contract, he probably had final veto on players. That's not the case anymore. It really isn't. I think possibly, maybe nobody has the final veto on players, but certainly you've got a new head coach coming in, Lopetegui, who completely understands the situation. And I remember watching that video, which was very much a carbon copy of the Wolves video, but also listening to his initial interview on West Ham United's television, where he was saying, I've come in as a head coach. My job is to coach the players. And the technical director, the sporting director, he meant Tim Steidten, is there to bring the players in. He was very clear to make that point. So I think Lopetegui probably understood the landscape. He probably knew what had preceded him at West Ham. He probably knew that it was a little bit of a funny subject at West Ham because of what had gone down with Tim Steidten and David Moyes. And believe you me, it really had gone down at the end because Steidten had been banned from the training ground, apparently banned or whatever, a mutual agreement, been banned from the dressing room. Now look, I do believe there was a bit of PR battle from the club towards the end, where they said, "Oh no, it's not been banned; it's a mutual agreement." Do you know what I think? I think he was banned, and then I think when the news wasn't ever meant to get out, and actually the ban had been in place possibly since the Liverpool game. I'm not sure how much of that is true, but that was the news that was leaked out, and it probably took 2 or 3 weeks for the news to come out that Steidten was not welcome in the training ground, was not welcome in the dressing room. And I think once the news got out there was a certain amount of damage limitation from the club saying, "Oh no, it's a mutual agreement." We all know that mutual agreement stuff's a load of crap. It's a load of crap when a manager leaves as well. When they say, "Oh, we've come to a mutual decision," that very, very rarely, I think, is there ever totally a mutual decision. Normally, someone's got the elbow. I think in this instance, Moyes had given Steidten the elbow and said, "Oi, you, hop it." So I think he's been really patient, and now he's got what he wants. He's got the ultimate power. I don't think that I don't mean it from a sort of a megalomaniac point of view in terms of the ultimate power. I'm not suggesting Steidten's power craze, far from it. He just wants to be able to implement his philosophy and his ideals and the way he wants to play, and also the way he wants to manage, basically, football operations at West Ham. And he's finally getting to build it in his vision. It's going to be really interesting. I'm sure he's going to take things from the time that he spent at Bayer Leverkusen, and why wouldn't you? But I mean, in many respects, he's going to have a far bigger budget than even the guy who was working. Was it Simon Rolfe? Was that his name, Rolfe? The guy over at Leverkusen, to be able to go and spend 30 million on a youngster. Wow, I know it's 30 million euros and so on and so forth, but you've got the 20% clause on there as well, and the sell-on fee. There's not too many clubs in Europe that can do that sort of stuff. So I just think it's been quite a remarkable turnaround for Steidten and a remarkable bit of patience, really. And it must have been a frustrating period for him. Look, I'm sure he's very, very well paid. I'm sure he's even better paid now. But if this deal goes through, and from what Fabrizio Romano is saying, which is that the documents have been signed, that the deal has been agreed with Palmeiras, the deal has been agreed with the player, with his agent. So the wages done, it's all done. Documents are being drafted up, apparently. I mean, that sounds like a done deal. What can go wrong? Well, quite a lot. It's football, really, isn't it? So, but by and large, if this goes through, I think this is it. It's gone. All that stuff. Oh, who bought this player is gone. Don't get me wrong. I do think there will be an occasion where the manager is allowed to bring a player in. We discussed Max Kilman yesterday. Max Kilman comes in. Look, clearly that's Lopetegui, and so you should. So you should give your manager, the odd player here or there, particularly if they think I need a bit of experience in the team or they've worked with somebody before. But by and large, transfers are going to be done by the director of football. So, yeah, look, well done, Tim Steidten. I think this is really good. And this is certainly in terms of it was never going to work for Moyes. There's this whole situation where David Moyes really wanted to remain a sort of old-fashioned, old-style manager. West Ham had to move to a more continental system whereby the director of football ultimately chose the players. So even if Moyes had signed the contract under the new terms of him being head coach, I just don't think he'd have survived. I do believe the frustration would have got the better of him eventually. Will Moyes go on and manage a club now, or in a way he was able to at West Ham, in a way he was able to at Everton? I don't know. I'm not sure those jobs are really around anymore. I think most people now are head coaches are just I just think in that sense his day is done. Maybe he can adapt. Maybe I'll be proven wrong on that. And I certainly don't wish him any ill feelings at all. But this is a really, really good sign that ultimately Tim Steidten has the power to do this. Good news all round. Just finally, I just want to remind you what Gio mentioned the other day. We have a Mohammed Kudus match-worn shirt. It's up for auction at the moment. All you got to do is email hammerschat@gmail.com with your bid. The highest bid at the moment is £500. Now, we're going to be absolutely clear here that the proceeds from this are not going to charity. They are going to Hammers Chat. We've gone and bought the shirt ourselves. It's not cheap. It's a match-worn Mohammed Kudus shirt. Seriously authentic stuff here. The proceeds are going back to us. We've received a little bit of stick from it. Let me just tell you now, we have done, and I know to 99.9% of you, we haven't got to justify anything, but I tell you, we have done so much. At the start of this season, actually we did at the start of last season, we stopped taking ticket sales on the boats. For the boats before the matches. So basically we stopped all revenue, all of that money, and it's thousands, all now goes to basically food banks. I'm supporting food banks. All of that does. So we put a lot to charity. This is for something completely different. But if you want this beautiful Mohammed Kudus match-worn shirt, it's muddy, it smells of deep heat. It's an authentic Mohammed Kudus shirt. hammerschat@gmail.com. Go and check it out, put your bid in, and there's not too long to run, so you need to move quite quickly on that. But anyway, be interested to know what you think, not about the smell of deep heat, but I'll be interested to know what you think about a power shift that goes just from that traditional Fergie, Arsene Wenger style David Moyes manager over to the new director of football. I'll repeat what I said at the start of the video. This transfer, whether you think it's brilliant or whether you're a little bit nervous about it like me, this transfer never would have happened under David Moyes. And that shows a shift in the right direction. Because, listen, don't get me wrong, me wanting the director of football and wanting a continental model, I've wanted that for quite some time, for a long, long time. It still makes me nervous when I think, that's a lot of money for a player I've not heard of. But I understand it, and I understand that's the way it goes. This is good news. This is really, really good news, irrespective of whether this transfer happens, and I think it will. But the really good news, the biggest indicator in this, is that Tim Steidten he's got the power.